Common types of shoring in construction. Shoring in construction is used to support a deep excavation to prevent the retained soil overturns and eventually cause a project mishap. Depending on the soil type, shoring support is usually provided when we need to support an excavation with at least 1.2 meter high. The common types of shoring that we usually encountered in the construction project are: Number 1. I-beam shoring, also known as soldier pile walls, are the most common type of shoring that we usually encountered in a construction project. It is constructed by driving prefabricated steel I-sections into the ground. Soil condition may allow for the sections to be vibrated directly into the ground, instead of pre-drilling of soil before installing the beam. The full wall is formed by installing a precast concrete panel between the driven steel beams to construct the shoring walls. I-beam shoring is used to support an excavation ranging from 1.2 to 5 meters deep or excavations equivalent to at least one basement, and depending on the design, its toe length ranges from 10 meters to 12 meters depth from zero levels. You can go beyond 5 meters, provided that it is properly designed and calculated to sustain the given surcharge load along its outside perimeter. Number 2. Secant pile shoring. Secant pile shoring was formed of intersecting two combinations of piles, with a reinforced, also called as secondary and unreinforced or primary pile, interlocking each other to form a continuous wall. A guide beam is constructed first prior to installation to keep the alignment in place. This is usually used in deep excavations. After casting the primary pile, the temporary casing is extracted while the concrete is not fully set, and a heavy casing is then driven into the intervening pile location, cutting into the fresh concrete of the adjacent pile. The secondary piles are then immediately drilled. The steel cages of secondary pile are inserted, and the structural concrete is poured to form a continuous wall. Secant piles are the best choice to use when there is no room for open excavation, or when space is limited because of an existing structure that is too close in proximity. Number 3. Contiguous pile shoring. Contiguous or tangent pile shoring is composed of closely spaced piles, wherein the faces of the piles are almost touching or tangent with each other. This is used in areas where water is not significant or the water pressure is very minimal. This is usually proposed in clay soils, and can use to retain dry granular material or fills. Although water seepage between the gaps of the pile is more likely to occur when using in water-bearing granular soils, it can be prevented by grouting these gaps to form a watertight retaining wall. This type of shoring is not recommended to use in high groundwater table without dewatering works. Construction of contiguous pile is very similar to that of the secant piles, as prior to the installation, a guide beam should be constructed to serve as a guide for the contiguous wall to install in place. Number 4. Sheet piles. Although can be used to retain soil-to-soil excavations, this type of shoring is best to use when we need to isolate our excavation from the bodies of water, specifically a creek, a pond, or on a seaside. It is commonly seen in a port and harbor construction. Similar to soldier piles, it can be constructed by driving prefabricated Z or U steel sections into the ground, using a vibro hammer. The full wall was formed connecting the Z or U steel sections or the sheet piles. Depending on the depth of excavation, the end of the sheet piles, if not long enough, can be welded together to reach the desired depth in the ground. Number 5. Diaphragm walls. When the excavation is too deep for the above-mentioned type of shoring, diaphragm walls can be used. It is intled in 3 panels of reinforced concrete installed and concreted at site. It can be a load-bearing element for a temporary or permanent retaining wall, or both. For deep excavation of basement and tunnels, diaphragm wall is the best option.